Perfect. Hare Krishna, welcome. This is See Through. My name is Achyuta Gopi. If you are new here, nice to see you. If you are a regular here, welcome. Normally, we have See Through, our live podcast on Sundays. And today we're having it on a Monday because why not? We've had a really, really special weekend. And I thought, why not let us come together and take a moment to really kind of debrief. You have the debriefing session after a big to do. Well, we get to have our debriefing after our best weekend festival ever. Started Friday with Krishna Janmashtami, the appearance day of Shri Krishna. Continued the next day with Prabhupada Vyas Puja, also Nandotsav. And Nandotsav is the festival that Nanda Maharaj has for the appearance of his son. And he has an incredible festival, the entire village of Vrindavan. But Nandotsav also happens to be the day that Prabhupada was born. And Prabhupada is incredibly important to my entire life. So I thought, why not try and see if we could have our podcast on this Monday after this weekend. Sometimes when you have a weekend like this, everything is amped up. Service is amped up. Programs are amped up. Everything's all there in one. But this Monday for me is Ekadashi, and we'll talk a lot about that and why the day is differing. But for me, it's Ekadashi, and so I thought, what better way to spend this Ekadashi than speaking about Srila Prabhupada? Because had it not been for Srila Prabhupada, I would not even know about Ekadashi. I'd have none of this knowledge. So I did promise that because many people have asked me, what is your story? When are you ever going to tell your story? Because we feel like it might be inspirational. I've even come across a few. Anybody ever remember when they used to have teen magazines? And they would do unauthorized biographies on all of the celebrities, and it's just people kind of like pontificating about the celebrity's life. Some of the facts are right, most of the facts are not. I've come across a few unauthorized biographies on YouTube, and by unauthorized I mean I had no idea these things were happening. So it's very interesting to hear about your own life watching a video of somebody else talking about what's happened to you in your life. And some of the details are like, how did they know this? And some of the details are like, what's happening? This is not at all what my life is like. But none of that would have happened without Srila Prabhupada. And so many people have asked me, when are you going to tell your stories? I guess today is the day. 1974 is before I was born. But my parents were kind of like minding their business studiously, really trying to mind their business. And they came across the Hare Krishnas who were trying to give them a book. And at first they had no interest in it whatsoever. They kind of thought they were really weird. And, they kind of were, especially in New York. It was a very interesting time to have Hare Krishnas going around giving this spiritual knowledge and philosophy. It was not long or too long before that Srila Prabhupada made his way, maybe about 9 years before that, after that Srila Prabhupada had made his way from Vrindavan to America, and specifically to New York. So it's not like they had a large handle on the philosophy. They just had the philosophy. And as soon as they had heard about it, they were giving it out. And I think that this is something that we can imbibe for ourselves. This is something that we can take in to our own hearts. Sometimes we might think, when am I allowed to actually like be a preacher? According to Srila Prabhupada, the time is any time. Once you hear about Krishna, that's the right time. And so you might think, well, no one like appointed me. I haven't been, but that was not Srila Prabhupada's method. When Srila Prabhupada arrived in New York, he found people that were eager to help him after some time. And it took quite some time of him chanting by himself. He would chant in a storefront. He would cut up one apple to give to people because he felt as though the giving of prasad or sanctified food that's been blessed by our supreme bestie was incredibly important. And so he felt as though chanting and prasad were going to be the two keys that were really going to start bringing people. Indeed, it did. And the prasad was definitely there, but the chanting was also there and really powerful. That chanting changed and saved people's lives. And when he arrived, he would find people that would come to him for chanting sessions at 6 a.m., at 4 a.m., because they had never gone to sleep. They had gone on partying binges. They had been partying with their friends and drinking and smoking and taking all kinds of mind-altering substances. And then they would go and they would see Srila Prabhupada. So this was always something to me that was quite magnificent, because Srila Prabhupada never sent them away. And it was like he was an ocean of patience. I've taught Sunday school, and that sometimes was like enough. That was enough. That was all I could deal with. And Srila Prabhupada was such a reservoir, an ocean of patience. He did not get on their cases if they asked him what would sound like really inappropriate questions now. He was just really patient. There's a famous example. Srila Prabhupada had Yamuna Devi cooking for a wedding. Before she was Yamuna Devi, her sister was getting married. And this is the first time she's meeting Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada came from a culture where the family of the bride would joyously make arrangements for all of these different functions. They would cook, they would decorate, all these different things. And here, the culture was completely different. And in fact, this was the only family that had come for the wedding, was her one sister. And Srila Prabhupada decided, no problem. And so then he personally cooked for everyone assembled and invited them and decorated and made sure that there were all the arrangements for an Indian wedding that no one had ever really experienced. He was everything: priest, facilitator, counselor, everything. And while Yamuna Devi was cooking, she asked Srila Prabhupada if she could go smoke a cigarette. And some of us might feel some kind of shame, guilt, an idea of like, it's not even an appropriate question. What are we doing? But Srila Prabhupada didn't let on. No matter what he thought in that moment, all he did was encourage her. She came back, like, wash your hands, and then we continue. He fully understood that this was an ongoing process for life. It's not like it's an ongoing process this month and then you perfect it and you should be fine. It is an ongoing process for life. So this was Srila Prabhupada's patience. And he immediately would send the devotees to preach to others. Bring your friends and then tell your friends about it. If this is helping you, you tell your friends, and those friends tell their friends. Go tell people. So this is how, about maybe 9 years later, my parents ran into the Hare Krishnas giving them books, Bhagavad Gitas, etc. And the first time they definitely didn't want it. They met them a second time. They still didn't want it. And then a friend of theirs, mutual friend, randomly came and also brought them the Bhagavad Gita. And at that point, my dad was kind of like, I've been hearing a lot about these Hare Krishnas. Because at that point, there were also many translations of Bhagavad Gita. And all of them were not created equal. I've seen there's, a pretty large amount of flack that people try to give me on the internet, saying that I've got some bogus translation of Bhagavad Gita. And I'm like, I don't know which translation you're reading, but I can guarantee you Srila Prabhupada's it's gonna be top tier. It's gonna be one of the best by far. For me, it is absolutely the best one. I've seen some other ones. I've seen other translations, even done by Indian people, scholars, etc. It doesn't hold a candle. Srila Prabhupada really delved into what life was like in America and then really tried to explain it. He was like psychologist everything. If you read this Bhagavad Gita, he is pulling out things from psychology and pulling out things from here and pulling out things from here and pulling out things from here. And I'm thinking, he came to America with one trunk of books. Where do you know all this from? But he would use everything in the service. So my parents got the Bhagavad Gita and they were reading it. And the first thing they kind of did was decide, okay, we're not eating meat anymore, and my sister at the time was 5 or so. And so she was thinking, okay, here we go. Like, I don't know, but here we go. We got another like routine. But they stuck with it. This was the thing that they stuck with. And they stuck with it. They're still sticking with it. They've stuck with it ever since. Still going strong with it. And this idea, my mom was saying that when she first read Bhagavad Gita, she kind of felt both like it gave her every single answer that she had been looking for, because she and my father had spent so much time kind of speaking with each other and philosophizing with one another and their friends. Like, it was a very intellectual time period. You know, it was very also mind altering for a lot of people, but it was also a very intellectual time. Like, people would go take drugs to like pontificate about the workings of the universe. Like, it's like everybody's like, we got to figure out how this thing is working, and it's like too much for me to comprehend sober somehow. And so this is the era. And so they had been looking for so long. And my mom was saying that she felt as though all of those questions were answered. And then simultaneously what would happen was, then you start hearing this deeper philosophy, the things that you never thought to question. And it's things like, well, okay, fine, all this is happening, and who am I now? I'm a soul? And wait, you mean to tell me, okay, karma is all well and good for why do bad things happen to good people? It's a great explanation there. But my mom was saying, she kind of felt a little bit called out, because then when you're really looking at the pure idea of karma, it's like, wait a second, you mean to tell me that all of these things that are like really annoyingly happening to me in life now, I've deserved them somehow? And so she really felt like, oh no. She wanted to make sure that she positioned her life in such a way that she was not building up any more unwanted karma. So my parents really decided to stick with the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. But then they finally went to the temple. And my dad is very skeptical. And so when he got there, he kind of felt like, he's like, this is weird. It's really weird. We're singing communal songs, and I don't know. It's weird. But one devotee who was so kind and really pivotal in bringing my parents deeper into Krishna consciousness, he just recently passed away. And he came and he told them, he's like, you've got to try the prasadam. My dad's like, I don't know. I'm good on all that. And they're like, okay, fine. If you don't try anything else, just try some of the halava. And so halava was one of the first things that my dad had. And he said he feels like he can remember it to this day. And he said he really felt like it was one of those things that you're like, what is this? Has the world continued to have like access to this? Like, what even is this? And they continued to go back. And in continuing to go back and to fight for their space in this spiritual community, they have raised a family that's raised families that's raised families, being Krishna conscious. So years later, I was born, and I had a very traumatic kind of childbirth. I was born premature, about 2 months premature. My mom had tumors that were with me, so they were kind of like battling it out for me and the nutrition and the tumors and etc. I won. Glad to say. I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I'm here. But when I was born, I've heard I was 1 pound and 12 ounces. And then I immediately lost weight. I dropped weight, which seems to be like a theme of my life. I'm kind of good at losing weight, thankfully. But I lost weight and went down to 1 pound 8 ounces. And that's kind of where I was for some time. 1 pound 8 ounces is less than 1 kilo. 1 pound 8 ounces is less than a bunch of tomatoes. It's less than pretty big papaya. You can get about what, 2-3 potatoes? No, about 2 potatoes for 1 pound 8 ounces. It's really not like it's not much. And I was really, really tiny. 1 pound 8 ounces kind of looks like it could fit the length of your palm. Literally, that's it. From longest digit finger down to the end of your palm where your wrist begins. That's about how big I was. Not on my hand because my hands are small, but on a grown adult's hands, that's how big I was. And it wasn't until like recently when I was really putting it into perspective, because my dad used to tell me that a lot. He's like, no, you were only that big. And I was like, and when I hear it, I'm like, wow, amazing. You don't think much of it because it's you. And then I think recently I was holding a remote to something, and that remote was kind of fitting in my palm, and I was thinking, now wait a second, that's how big I was. Like, where's my phone? I dare say I was probably slightly smaller than this iPhone 12. There are phones that are bigger than me. So it was pretty traumatic. And they weren't really, really sure if I was going to make it. The nurses there somehow never flinched. They never let on if they were worried. They just kind of kept telling my parents, don't worry, she's going to make it. The girls are fighters, is what they kept saying. Which, so they said the girls are fighters. They usually, they pull through. And for me, I'm like, girls are fighters. What do you, like, how do we even know what that looks like at 1 pound 8 ounces and what, 6 inches? 1 pound 8 ounces and 6 inches long. I don't know what that looks like to be a fighter. But they tried hard to keep the faith, and my parents would come every day to the hospital, and my mom would read Srimad Bhagavatam, and my dad would come and stand by the incubator where I was, and he would sing. He would sing kirtan. And he's not necessarily a singer. He's not a bad singer. He has a nice voice. but he doesn't consider himself like, a musician. But he would come every day and he would sing. And then some days, the nurses would tell him, "Oh, she's been waiting. Like, she's been waiting for you." And so then he said, perk up, turn your little head, look on over. So it's kind of amazing to see the power of the holy name in action. So from the very moment that I was born and even before, I have been a Krishna kid. Srila Prabhupada has changed my life. I owe it specifically to him. So sometimes there are people who ask me questions and they're having a hard time dealing with certain things. And don't you think you could have found this spiritual knowledge anywhere else? It's possible. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't. It came from Srila Prabhupada. This man, at the age of 70, risked his life to save mine. To absolutely save my life. Because even though the girls are fighters, I'm still not sure if I would have pulled through the same without the power of prayer. Without the power of my parents praying for me unceasingly, I'm not sure if I would have come through the other side quite like this. So I did get better. I spent maybe 2 months or so in the hospital. And then I finally came home. And even then, I think my parents were saying I was still so small that they used to kind of just carry me around on a pillow. And that's the kind of extra energy I'm going into life with now. I think we should go back to those days where people carried me around on a pillow. Like I'm really trying to wonder, like, when did I let go of that extra energy? This is the kind of thing that I think I should have kept up with. But they carried me around on a pillow because I was that small. And it didn't come without bodily issues. But I'm here. And all through life, you can thank Krishna. I mean, you can thank my parents for the whole supreme bestie. Krishna is your bestie. Because, not in so many words, but they were always telling me from the moment I was little, Krishna is your dearmost friend. If you ever have a problem, if you ever have any confusion, even if you have joy that you want to share, talk to Krishna. Make him your friend. I was a kid that grew up not with a lot of friends. And by a lot, that means any. I had maybe like 3 friends from the age of 8 till 15. Not the same friends, just like 3. Random, sporadically. And different ones. And so that was always a little bit difficult to deal with. You're going through what modern psychology calls the most formative years of your life, especially 5 through 12, and you have no friends. It feels completely isolated, and not through any fault of my own. It's not like we were moving a lot. In fact, my parents still live in the same house. So we didn't move, but just other people were not ready to accept Black kids. Why? Because that's the nature of the material world. That's how it goes. That is absolutely the nature of this place. I feel as though there's always this categorizing that happens. We see the categorizing occurring even within Srimad Bhagavatam. Prahlada Maharaj spends so much time telling others all the categorizations of this is my enemy and this is my friend. Let go. All the categorizations of I belong to this caste and you belong to that caste. Let it go. And even Prahlada Maharaj, who is very famous, but even after he goes through all of his ordeals and trials and tribulations, He's sitting literally on the lap of the Lord like a child. He's 5 and cute. And the Lord has saved him from danger and death, etc. And when Prahlada is sitting on the Lord's lap, Lord Nrsingadev licks him. He's so pleased with this little boy that he licks his body. And if that isn't just the cutest thing ever, I don't know what is. But when he tells Prahlad to ask for a benediction, Prahlad says, "What can I ask of you? You have changed my entire life." He says, "You've looked at me and you haven't taken into account my family. You haven't taken into account anything. You've just given me the priceless jewel of your association." Prahlad is saying, not only do I not deserve this, I am from the wrong family. You want to talk about people who don't belong in Krishna consciousness. He's like, I'm a demon. Born in a family of demons. Literally, it's a race of demons. It's not like, oh, that was just a derogatory slur that we used to refer to people. No, actual demons. And his family, they were proud of being demons. And so Prahlad is saying, I don't fit in here. And yet, my Lord, you have accepted me with open arms. You've placed me on your lap. You've given me everything. That's Krishna. That's Srila Prabhupada. He didn't care what the external looked like. Even down to, there are famous stories. One disciple comes to him and he says, "Oh, Prabhupada, I have to go away for a while." Prabhupada asks, "Where are you going?" He says, "Well, I have to go to jail." And he says, "Jail? Well, why?" And he says, "Well, I was selling drugs, Prabhupada." Prabhupada stops for a moment. Famously, I was speaking this morning in my lecture about how the quote, the line, "That's all right," from Srila Prabhupada comes in some of the best moments. Famous line, "That's all right." He says, "I also was selling drugs," because Srila Prabhupada used to be a pharmacist. And so in just trying to relate, he could have condemned him. He could have said, "What are you doing? You're not fit to be here. I'm bringing this transcendental knowledge, and what's happening with he." None of that. He preached to him, he asked him to remain strong, and then he told him, he said, "But no problem. Krishna was also born in a jail." Like, this kind of relatability is golden. We need this. We need to be this for others. That kind of acceptance where someone is telling you they're going through something hard and you're not immediately judging them and thinking, "Oh, it looks like you got what was coming to you." But Srila Prabhupada instead is saying, "No problem. We'll still be here when you come back." They were. He rejoined, came back. And Srila Prabhupada often would, "No problem. I'll pray for you." So what makes us think that we shouldn't be praying for ourselves and for each other? When we start putting those spiritual parameters on, "Oh, no, I don't pray because pure devotees never ask Krishna for anything." But Prabhupada was a pure devotee. He would pray for his disciples. In fact, when Srila Prabhupada had health issues, he would even tell the disciples, "You can also pray, oh Krishna, if it is your desire, if you so desire, please allow our spiritual master to stay with us just a little longer." So we shouldn't think that we should never pray for anything. Krishna is a part of our lives and one of the most important people in our entire existence. And if we don't let those people into our lives, they'll feel really bad about it. So it's kind of our responsibility in this relationship that we have with Krishna to let him in, to come to him with our issues, with our joys and our triumphs, yes, but also with our grief, with our anxiety, with our sadness. When we have nowhere else to turn and when we don't know what to do, we should be following in Arjuna's footsteps. "Oh my Lord, I'm losing my composure. I feel weak. I feel unable to move in this condition. I am coming to you. Please tell me for certain what is best for me. I am a soul surrendered unto you. I am yours. There are so many Christians who really preach about accepting Jesus as your Lord and Savior every day. But we should also be like this. Have we surrendered to Krishna every day? Or are we thinking, I surrendered yesterday. Today is not so important. That's once again the analogy this morning. It's like, if the forecast called for rain and I thought to myself, but I used my umbrella yesterday, I don't have to bring it out today. And then it rains and then I wonder, but why? God, how could you have allowed me to get wet in the rain? Now I'm soggy and I might catch pneumonia. How could you do this to me? It's like, I gave you a forecast. It's up to us to stay fortified each day. It's up to us to surrender each day. Because as Srila Prabhupada so wisely knew, this is a lifelong journey. So I didn't have any friends, but my parents encouraged me constantly to make Krishna my best friend. And it was like a message that I kept getting. I was somewhere, I was about 14, 15, and I was hanging out with a group of people, and they went somewhere, and when I came back, they were gone. So I was looking around, and one of my friends came and said, "What are you looking for?" I said, "I'm looking for my friends. I don't know. I seem to have lost them all. What? I didn't even know how I got here alone." And he said, "But you have Krishna." I said, "Yes, I know." He said, "So if you have Krishna, you have all the friends. So really, nobody's lost. It's fine." And my friend was really spacey like that. He would come in with these ideas, and then it was like the idea would grab hold of him, like, it's a great idea. And then he would just walk off like a transcendental Jiminy Cricket, and so this is my friend. And so he said that, and then literally and then left. So these were the messages that I would get all through my life. But I really am coming to the understanding that this was Krishna not leaving me alone. Like you ever hear a teaching and you're like, I just wish it would leave me alone. Leave me alone. Let me be normal and miserable like everybody else. And Krishna refused. He made a way. You are going to remember me, whether you like it or not. I am going to insert myself into your life. So I know that every single one of those prayers that my mother must have prayed when she was praying for me, he is abiding by all of those. I'm gonna catch you in my grip, and I'm not. You could not forget me if you wanted to. And I guarantee you, I feel like there have been times where I have wanted to. Just to be normal. Everybody goes through their phases. They just want to be normal, like everybody else. And Krishna would make it impossible. I find myself even now, I will wind up, you're binge watching something, and in a random show, in the background, I will see somebody will have a picture of Krishna. Of course. Because he doesn't leave you alone. Once Krishna is reciprocal. So once you stalk him a little bit, he will stalk you for the rest of your life. Reciprocally. And there are very many people who have said that they've tried to leave Krishna consciousness, but Krishna doesn't leave them. So please be sure that no matter what you go through, no matter where you are, even if you think, you know what, this Krishna consciousness is too much, I'm out of here. Krishna will never leave you. He will annoy you right back on into his service. And then you think, you're like, I can't take this anymore. It's so annoying. And then you find yourself right back at a temple, gazing at God. And I am so thankful for it. I'm always literally thank God. No, literally, thank you, God, that you never let go because I would have let go so many times. Really, at the first sight of any discomfort, I'm like, oh, I can't. I let go. I'm done. I fold immediately. But Krishna doesn't. He stands strong. And he closes those gaps of faith. So as I grew up, I always wanted to sing, but did not really begin singing for any kind of public audience until I was maybe 15, 16, for real. I would be there at the temple, and one of my kirtan gurus, who was also kind of like my cooking guru, he was a Bengali gentleman, and he would have us sing for kirtan because we were the only ones there. There would be kirtan with Shrikanta, my brother, myself, and like my sister-in-law, my brother's wife. That was it. Now, some people might think it's like, but this was the, Yuga Dharma. Like, this is the goal of this Kali Yuga, isn't it? Yes. And sometimes that's just how it is. So we would do kirtan. And the first thing he told me was, open your mouth. Like, how can you sing if you're just singing like this the whole time? It doesn't work. There's no sound that can come out. He said, the more you open your mouth, then Krishna's mercy can come through. And so I began really opening my mouth and singing and going for it. And that is always still the first instruction that I give to anyone. Anyone that says, what can I do to be a better singer? How do I get a hold on this whole singing thing? Especially in kirtan, the first thing I always tell them is open your mouth. Open wide. Really, really go for it. So, and then, people tell me, but I don't know if I want to be so loud or if I want to be, I'm like, if you don't take up space here, where are you supposed to take up space? Srila Prabhupada encouraged all of his disciples to take up space. Go for it. Give this life to Krishna in a bold way, in a really, really big way. Don't hold back. If ever you were going to go for it, now is the time. So that's what I feel like with kirtan. Kirtan is my one place where I can make a practice of really going for it. Opening up and just really letting Krishna have it. Sing about your day. The happy moments, the sad moments, the confusing moments, the anxiety-ridden moments, whatever it is. And those kirtans I find that are the best are the ones where I've really kind of yelled at the top of my lungs. It might not be the best thing for my voice, but I feel like if I can use this voice in the service that way, it does really good things for my entire soul. But it helps Krishna know that I'm serious. Helps him know that I'm really not holding back. So when people come up to me and they tell me that they enjoy the kirtan, outwardly, I've found a way to say thank you. Inwardly, I just really wind up knowing that that's Krishna and his reciprocation. That's my friend. That's my friend in action. He's taking care of the rest. All I did was open my mouth. Literally, that's all I did. I opened my mouth and I said a prayer. Okay, Lord God, take the wheel. Like, it's all on you. I've got nothing. And then Krishna definitely, absolutely handled the rest. And we can kind of look at our entire lives in this way. Jobs, service, any of it. We just show up. Our job is to show up and pray and say, okay, Krishna, now you guide me. I'm a soul surrendered unto you. You show me which is the next step. You show me which way to walk, how to talk, how to move, what will inspire someone's heart. Because none of us can know that. And yet we find that we are in gatherings where we feel like they were speaking directly to me. They weren't, but Krishna was. And we should have firm faith in that. At those moments where we feel like, oh, that was exactly for me, it's because Krishna is listening. That's our friend's way of saying, hi, I'm here, I hear you. So I started singing then, and due to the encouragement of my family members and the members of community who have become like my family members, it's been such a wonderful journey of others just encouraging me to sing out loud. And it hasn't been without its battles. Nothing will be. That's also the nature of this material world, being material worldy, as my sister likes to say. There will be battles. There's going to be obstacles. There's going to be opposition and resistance. That's what happens here. It's like you go to the beach and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I got wet and I got sand all up and everywhere. It's like, well, you went to the beach. What do you think was going to happen? Like, that's the nature of the beach. So the nature of this place is that there's going to be resistance and opposition. Our job is to try and understand that that's the nature of it. Don't be too alarmed when it happens. Don't beat yourself up about it if you get down, because that's like saying, I shouldn't sweat when it's hot. Like, that's just an unrealistic thing, isn't it? Right? It's like, if you really were to get upset with yourself every time you were sweating because it was hot, some people would be like, okay, look, we've got to get you some realistic views about life and how the body works. It's just a natural function of the body. This was what happens naturally. So how we react to the setbacks is natural. It's natural for us to take a moment, sometimes take a knee and say, whoa. It's natural to take a moment when the wind gets knocked out of us, figuratively, literally, all of the above. So it's natural for us to need a moment. But then we keep going, understanding that my friend is right on the other side of this opposition, walking me through it, helping me with it, communicating with me and letting me know, hey, I'm here. And Srila Prabhupada is also with us, never ever condemning us for anything, always saying, that's all right. All you need to do here is just this little bit. I'll take care of the rest, promise. Even when we think about Ekadashi, Ekadashi fasts are not the same everywhere. They are not the same. Some people, you can't even have salt. Some people, you can't have anything with seeds. I'm like, well, which fruits then? Which fruit is it? What? How do I, what? What am I supposed to do? Because isn't it that a coconut is just a big seed? I think I read that somewhere. And if you've ever, a few Ekadashis ago, I had someone made the simplest thing ever. It was shaved coconut. They had pan fried it, the shaved coconut with olive oil and just a little bit of like salt, pepper, I think cumin powder, and just like the slightest, lightest dusting of spices. It was so good. So if I couldn't have coconut, what was I going to do? I actually like coconut. Like, if I can't, I don't know. I don't know what you do then. I mean, it's just you and potatoes and milk. Maybe broccoli. You could have cabbage. The problem with that is that, cabbage is not conducive for everybody's stomach. Like, if I had cabbage, I think I would have a gas attack so bad. I would just roll me up. Just send me preemptively to the doctor along with the meal. Just go ahead. You hate me. So the reason that there are so many people and there are so many that you can only eat once and then not in the daytime. You can eat once in the evening. But like really it's better just don't eat at all. And then better than that, it's like don't drink anything either. Better than that, don't eat, don't drink, and stay up all night chanting the holy names. Better than that, don't eat, don't drink, stay up all night chanting the holy names, and don't even take a nap during the day. And then the next day, you're not supposed to sleep throughout the day either. Right. So like, okay? And Srila Prabhupada came and said, no problem, that's all right. Just fast from grains and beans. I'm like, what does that even mean? He made it so simple. Just grains and beans. And so a lot of people might be like, you're really not supposed to eat that. I'm like, I know, but because of my grandfather, he said he'll take care of the rest, and I have full faith in that. And as we mature on our spiritual paths, we start to find ways in which sometimes our standard will get more strict. But what's amazing about Srila Prabhupada is he said he never put it that you had to get more strict. He gave us this base formula and literally said, this is it. You follow this, I'll take you back home, back to Godhead. That is it. Done. It wasn't like, okay, I'll give them this, and then later on, when they get mature, I'll hit them with the whammy, like, okay, really, you're supposed to do this. Now do this. He just gave them the base formula and literally said, and then keep that. You don't ever have to do it differently. "16 rounds, you could do that for the rest of your life and never have to increase." And then, there were some people. There are a couple of conversations. And one devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, Madhudvisha? Maybe. There was one devotee that said to Srila Prabhupada, he said, Srila Prabhupada, so you said we have to chant 16 rounds after the time of initiation. Srila Prabhupada said, I never said that. Now, I'm hearing this, later, and I'm like, what does he mean he never said that? Is my life about to be a lie? Because this is what I've built my life on. And there's a long pause. Srila Prabhupada is fond of those long pauses. I'm like, are you just trying to test whether or not we will die of anticipation? And finally he says, I said 16 rounds minimum. But then it was never like a specification of like, the proper one. It's like 16 rounds minimum. That could mean 17. That could mean 192. So 192 rounds, give or take, is about 300,000 names of God. So the reason I put that in there is because that was like that was Haridas Thakur Namacharya. Or it could be as simple as like 17, which is the base minimum for minimum 16 rounds. Could either end, anywhere in between. And Krishna is accepting all of this based on the agreements that Srila Prabhupada has made for us. Which is why I've never wanted to go anywhere else, because I don't know what agreements those people made for me. But I do know the agreements that Srila Prabhupada made for me. He made it so that I could be a woman from the West and still be a Brahmin. I can be a pujari. I can conduct fire sacrifices if I so choose. I can become a scholar. In fact, Srila Prabhupada was encouraging everyone to become a scholar. Just read these books and become a scholar. He had firm faith that he had gotten the dictation from Krishna enough that anything that we would need to combat any argument would be in those books. That is some faith. That is our Srila Prabhupada. He understood that we needed to be sensitive with our preaching according to time, place, circumstance, even with different groups of people. He was so encouraging to everyone he would meet. It didn't matter nationality. It didn't matter how much money they did or did not have. It didn't matter. Social stratas, socioeconomic stratifications, none of that mattered. He really lived by the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam, which are that we should throw out the this is my enemy and this is my friend, and really see it on the basis of this is a soul, and that soul is really looking for their place. Sometimes we can help that soul find its place. Sometimes we have to pray from afar. But Srila Prabhupada was constantly risking his life and putting himself out there again and again and again to help souls reclaim their place. And he would say so much. This is not me saying. Krishna is saying. This is not me promising. This is Krishna's promise. This is not my word. It's Krishna's word. So he was willing and ready to give all credit to everyone else. There was, and I think I brought this up maybe a few years ago. It's about a 3-minute recording. Wonder if I can still find it. If I can find it, I'll try and post it somewhere. Probably on Patreon. Sorry for the rest of you. But I'll try and post it on Patreon. And if you haven't joined Patreon, then I guess that's what you've got to do, because we are about to drop one of my most favorite and one of the most life-changing Prabhupada snippets that I'd ever heard. Srila Prabhupada was speaking about taking up this renounced order of life and what it meant for him. He was afraid for a long time what that would mean to society, etc., if he left his family. Srila Prabhupada had about 5 children and a wife, and he was thinking, in order to start a spiritual preaching the way my guru wants me, I'll have to leave my family, and I don't know. Not only do I not know how that's possible, I don't know what anyone will think of me. And as he speaks, he thinks, this is going to be horrible. I'm horrified just thinking about the backlash and resistance that he would have to face. And he goes through with it. And then he tells his disciples, he says, but you have all come here to help me in my guru's mission. And then Srila Prabhupada begins to cry out of gratitude. He thanks these kids, these 20-year-old kids. He cries out of gratitude saying, but Krishna has sent all of you. You are doing this. And it gets to a point where he can't even continue. He's so overcome with gratitude that there were those who were willing to help him in his guru's mission. This is my Srila Prabhupada. This is my grandfather. I was never very close to the biological grandparents. And it was like, you like them, and in the way that when you're a kid, you feel like you're supposed to like them. But Srila Prabhupada, that's my grandfather. And I can honestly say that my life would not be the same. I owe my entire existence, everything that you see before you, whatever it is, I owe to Srila Prabhupada. And I can sit here and really honestly, once again, say that I love him with all my heart. So that's my Srila Prabhupada. And that's kind of my story. Where did you come from? How did you get to love Krishna so much? That was Krishna's decision. He found me and decided not to let go. I didn't even have any choice in the matter. My parents were praying for me. Krishna decided, that one's mine. When I got old enough, when I left the hospital, my parents took me to the Brooklyn Temple. They put me down on the altar in front of Sri Radha Govinda and said, this one's yours. So they have been my shelter since before I've had memories. Since before I was even conscious of who I was, what I was doing, any of this. So those are the lords of my life. And there's just something that happens when you sing Govinda. He's very handsome. He will make a mess of your life, but he's very handsome. So at least he's nice to look at while your life is a mess. But one thing I know is that life is going to get messy regardless of what we do. That, once again, is the nature of this material world. But having such beautiful lords like Radha Govinda to carry you through, having a well-wishing grandfather like Srila Prabhupada to go and speak to, and make it worth it. And I really like that I get to be this next generation of like grand disciples of Srila Prabhupada, because you know, you get the parents, and the parents have to be like, they have to set the boundaries and do the things, but the grandparents, their job is just to spoil you. That's what I feel like with Srila Prabhupada. If life gets to be too much, I'm like, Grandpa, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Help. And I feel as though Srila Prabhupada has spoiled, especially this new generation. So this is all of our good fortune. We've come at a really good time. And we're all here together. So thank you for being with me. Thank you for listening to my story and for listening to my glorification of Srila Prabhupada. I don't think there could possibly be an end to it. If you have not, like if you have been in a situation where you've just been reading Srila Prabhupada's books, I encourage you to listen to the sound of his voice. Listen to a lecture. And then after you've done that for a little while, or even right after that one, watch him give a lecture. Get to know our grandfather. Really look at him. Get to know his mannerisms. Listen to how he interacts with other devotees. Listen to the patience he has, the compassion that he has. It's life-changing. Because he didn't come all this way to America to be rich. That was kind of like a side effect that happened later. But there was a lot more that happened first. He was chased with a knife by a person who had a psychotic break while on drugs. His manuscripts stolen, ruined, typewriter stolen, fleeing for his life, dealing with all kinds of people, mentally unhealthy people going after him. He dealt with a lot just to give Krishna. So he's done all this just so that we could enjoy Krishna consciousness today. Really comfortable. So I encourage you all, if you've just been reading Srila Prabhupada's books, go on YouTube and just search up Srila Prabhupada lecture and listen to the sound of his voice. And then watch his mannerisms. I guarantee you, I promise you, he is still accessible for us to associate with. And if you ever have a problem that you feel like you can't talk to anybody else about, write him a letter. I promise you it works. Write Srila Prabhupada a letter. Dear Grandpa, I am confused, or down, or feeling out of it, or just feeling lethargic, whatever it is. And I guarantee you he answers, and there are miracles that happen along the way. I've always thought of Krishna consciousness as the best adventure that I will ever go on. There is a spiritual adventure waiting for each one of us. I encourage us all to grab onto it with both hands, like some sort of transcendental zip line, and jump in. Sometimes we might not be so adventurous with other things in life, but if we are going to dive all into anything, let it be this. Let it be our spiritual lives. So next week, we'll resume our regular schedule back on Sundays. We will come back with Krishna book reading, reading the words of Srila Prabhupada. And still, even today, Bhagavad Gita is changing people's lives. Krishna book is changing people's lives. If anything that I have ever said or preached has changed any of your lives, it is only because of Srila Prabhupada and Radha Govinda and my family. So literally, all glory is to Srila Prabhupada. I owe him so much gratitude. So I'm thankful for Srila Prabhupada, and I'm thankful for each and every one of you. Thanks for being with me. Hope to see you all again soon. The 24th. That's 2 days from now. My mind can't wrap around which day of the week that is. Wednesday. Wednesday, I'll be giving a lecture for Hare Krishna Africa. It'll be, I'm going to double check, but I think it's 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is 8 a.m. on the West Coast, 8:30 p.m. in India. So that'll be the 24th on Thursday. Wednesday. On Wednesday. The 24th. It's fine. Don't worry about the day. Just it's the number. So that'll be a lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam that I am now going to prep for. So I'll look forward to seeing you all as the week progresses. And if not, you'll see me on Instagram and around. I'll be around. So thank you. You all are the best. And these are usually recorded and up on YouTube, so you can always go back to them whenever you need to. There are a lot of fun story times that have happened on YouTube from way back when I was doing these story times, and it was like just me and Leeleshwari and Leela Mandri and Sonam, and like that was it. That was the crew. Leeleshwari is still here, going strong. And a lot of the reason that you have these podcasts is because of Leeleshwari and Leela Mandri. The reason you can hear me clearly is because of my friend Leela Mandri. She started a campaign for this microphone whereby you all can hear and enjoy the sounds of this and all of the Prayerfully Yours recordings that happen. Any way that you can hear me, it's because of Leela Mandri. So there are loads. Go back, make sure you listen to those, because those are really fun. That was like in the beginning where I was still finding my stride. But we'll be back with more Krishna book reading, and we'll see how it goes. Until then, glad to be with you. Glad to see us through all of the things. Thank you all for being here. You all are rock stars and absolute superstars. You don't have to just take my word for it. I promise Srila Prabhupada thinks you're a rock star also. So you have it on divine authority. I'll see you all soon. Have a wonderful Ekadashi and a wonderful day. Write me a message if you feel like it. We'll be in touch. Hare Krishna, Shri Radha Govinda Dev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, which is really fancy for saying all glories to all of you. See you all soon.